All right, guys. Every time, they got to do something stupid every time. Whether it's at the beginning, the end, doesn't matter. All right, welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast, and I'm joined today by Warren and Easton. I'll just say that. We'll leave it at that. Which you already heard from Easton because he interrupted me.
That wasn't me, man.
Whatever. So anyhow, we're going to be talking. Guys? I guess we need to say a huge thank you because they're making it easy now as far as topics. Because you guys are sending in so many topics and we're trying to cover them all. That it just we have a list. So keep sending in those topics. And we'll do as many as we can. And so today is going to be exactly that. We have two different topics we're going to talk about. One is using drones. We had a couple different people that wrote in. One for sure was Brett O'Rear wrote in, and then I think you had a Trevor Newman.
He's been waiting on it for a little bit too.
Yep. So we're going to weigh in on our opinion on the use of drones when it comes to deer or deer hunting, however you want to put it. Mainly it's deer recovery, I believe. And then the other one is Mike Prado wrote in and asked about some general scouting tips. And so we're going to talk about that. And so anyhow, but Warren, do you have some people that we need to shout out? Or
I do. Wheezy Geezy. He says he's enjoying the interaction between all of us on the various topics. Really appreciate the banter and the family ribbing, but also the underlying seriousness of the podcast. Not too heavy and not too light, but just right. That sounds like
we planned that.
A perfect blizzard.
Sounds like
not too heavy, not too light is just right.
What was his name again?
Wheezy.
No.
Wheezy Guyezy, I think. It's WEYEGUEYEZ. So I'm pretty sure that's Wheezy Guyezy. 27TCJ says, huge fan of the show. Apple Podcast guy here. Learned a lot listening to the show, and some of your tips helped me tag another mature buck during the Wisconsin bow season.
Oh, heck
Congrats, man. Good for you. Informative and entertaining. Ross Van. I've been mainly listening on Spotify and have decided to come leave a review on Apple because of their banter on the Spotify versus Apple podcast listeners, and figured why not. Fellas do offer their own take on all things hunting and provide you with a reason as to why they believe what they do, and of course with family there are arguments, but the show is one of the best in the hunting industry if you ask me. Thanks, fellas, and Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you too. That was a good one.
And I'll tell you what, I think these Spotify guys, they clutch up.
What is that?
It's a gang sign for clutch up.
Why do you think that?
What the heck? You just
Clutch.
made that up.
You just made that
it's
up.
a gang sign.
No, it's not.
It's my gang. Gang. Clutch up.
Just putting
See,
your
up.
Oh
and
my
clutch.
God. That is the dumbest thing.
All my Spotify guys unite. We clutch up.
That looks like a D.
We're going to have to figure out
up.
what is the sign for a short bus, because that's what gang you belong to.
Boom. Roasted.
Ooh. Well, they say it's hereditary. Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't talk about
Get
your mom
you
that
some.
way. That is wrong. She'll kick your butt.
You're lucky she doesn't listen to this.
That was a good turnaround.
That was it. Dad's got some spark. He goes to Mexico for 1 week and he gets a little zing.
Oh, yeah. He's supposed to teach us Spanish on the podcast today.
We be
He was in Cancun all week last week.
Josh Benner. Love the content you guys put out. The bantering back and forth makes me feel like I'm listening to some of my buddies, all while learning a lot of useful information. I normally listen to the podcast, but due to knee surgery, the YouTube videos are great to watch it unfold. Listen or watch these guys any way, shape, or form. Thank you, Josh, and get better. Get your knee healed up. Your knee healed up.
Get your knee healed up.
It was tough. All right. So we're going to do this whole one in Spanish?
Negative Ghost Rider. I'm not.
That wasn't even close to any Spanish word.
Okay, I think that you ought to, I could give you a couple things from my little.
All those iguanas he was sending us, that's what they would have sounded like.
Yeah.
They don't
And
make
the other
any
thing
sound.
is, did you figure out what those things are called? The coon-looking things?
Coati.
Coati?
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it, but Coati. So I pronounce it Coati or Cote.
Good accent.
Cote.
There it is.
Yeah. And their whole family, they look like they're kind of a mix of a raccoon / anteater / squirrel.
Red panda.
I don't know.
They kind of, yeah, that is true.
They're cool looking. They travel in families. Like we'd see like 20 of them at a time. They broke into our
That's a herd.
They broke into our Doritos.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ate the whole bag.
Did they really?
They did. It was in Mom's purse, and we went to the beach, came back, and I look around the corner, and there's one still standing there like, ooh, been caught. And then all the other ones got the bag back there.
Sounds like Cristo with Cheetos.
Doritos is going to make a commercial out of that.
Yeah.
Or Reese's. How he survived that, I don't know.
So,
King size.
all right.
And Oreos.
But it was a good trip. Ready to be back. Ready to do our thing. Let's talk a little bit about
It's
drones.
okay. You can. People on here will sympathize with you. I think it's a man thing. Dad's so glad he's back now and has to do podcasts because he was bored out of his mind in Mexico. But you got to sit on the pool to appease your wife. I've already told mine I'm not doing that.
You don't have a wife. You have a fiance.
Well, when she becomes my wife, I told her we go on honeymoon or whatever. I'm not sitting on the beach. She can do that if she wants. I'm going on an adventure. I'm
I don't
not
know
sitting on the
a
beach.
whole lot, but I think that there's probably a lot of married husbands out there laughing at you right now.
No, that's what they all say. I have parameters going into this thing.
Yeah, that's what they're probably laughing at.
Nope. Not doing
We'll
that.
see. We'll see. You keep
I'll
talking.
lose my mind.
Warren Holder of Raised Hunting divorced after 2 years of marriage.
It could be. If that's what it's going to mean that I have to sit on the beach, I'm getting a divorce.
Always be all because he wouldn't become a husband. Because that's all it is. You're really just becoming. You're supposed to be
saying
one.
You're saying that a husband means you have to abide by everything.
No, but
Not everything, but they give you a lot.
You
give them
have
a
to.
lot.
There have to be some give and take there, right?
I'm the leader. There's so
No,
little.
he is so stubborn.
Okay.
I'm saying she can do what she enjoys, and I'm going to do what I enjoy. And
Okay.
sitting on the beach, bored out of my mind, is not one of them.
You let me know how that goes. I'll be watching.
I'll be good for like an hour and a half after that. Adventures.
It's kind of fun. There was some fun stuff. We saw some cool stuff. The Mayan ruins are,
That's doing something.
yeah, that was cool. But I mean, so how would you like to play a game? Like, what if whoever had the coolest comment here gets their head chopped off? That's so they think that they don't know for sure, but they believe because of the way the Mayans believed was that they didn't kill they did a lot of human sacrifices.
Yeah.
I mean, they know that for sure. There's a lot of the stuff is built, but they believe that a lot of the sacrifices were of the best person, not the worst. Like they would use a virgin, okay, and then that's who they'd sacrifice.
Versus a prisoner or something.
Yes, and so then when they played these games, like almost like the Roman Colosseum, they had a whole thing set up there. They believed that the winner would actually then offer his head to be cut off, and then that was the offering.
Oof.
But they were probably so convicted in where they believed that they were going.
Exactly.
That they didn't think getting killed was like, sweet, I get to go right to heaven.
This is like the epitome of, I mean, they were to be able to be the one,
Right.
that would get them out of whether it was a drought or whether it was, to win over other, not countries, but other tribes or whatever that they were fighting against and things like that.
That I could see being a bad idea. If you killed all your best warriors.
That was exactly what
we got Bill and Steve over here. Hey.
Well, that was the whole thing that when we were talking to the guide who was explaining all that to us, and he's like, you get the guy that's that good at it, and then you're going to kill him.
Right.
I mean, you got the one because that's what they believe the games was like. If you're, if this tribe, I don't know what to call them, or
I think they were
a
tribe.
City or another city
Civilization.
But I mean, like, they were invading and instead of having a war, they would play this game and see and settle it that way. And then you got
in that event, then it kind of works out because then only one person dies versus
but
you
would think that the one that you'd want okay, we beat you, so therefore chop your head off, but they're not sure. I mean, they're going off of I mean, these things are thousands of years old. They're
Well, obviously they had to have some smart ones left because they built those.
Temples. It's when you see that stuff and you realize how old it is, and it's like crazy. It doesn't make sense.
I still think it's aliens. That's why.
If these
All
walls
right.
could speak.
If there was only drones back then, we'd know what was going on. We could have
That's
seen
probably what did it. They were able to see it from
aliens
above.
Lordy. All right, let's get started today. That's enough of my little trip. So let's talk about drones. And I think in Brett O'Rear's case, he was specifically talking about some other podcasts, which we won't drop any names on the other podcasts that we're talking about. And honestly, I didn't go listen to them and see what their thoughts were on them. But it's become, I mean, it's even here in Iowa, you hear people talking about, should it be allowed that you can use a drone to recover a deer?
Well,
They did make it
here already.
okay, and now they made it illegal. This year was the first year? Yeah.
This year it's illegal in Iowa
Yep.
to use a drone for
recovery purposes.
And I don't think it was necessarily legal at first. I think there's no law for it yet.
Yeah.
And then they made it illegal.
Right. So what is
What is our
everyone's
opinion on
thoughts?
it?
Yeah, who's got to chime in?
In theory,
It's
I
a
think
great
it's a
idea.
thing. I think it's awesome. I fully support. But I don't trust people very much. And I think that if there was a way to regulate it, as far as the uses of when it's being used, how to prove that it is being used properly and things like that, I think that's awesome, because all it's going to do is your success rate of finding an animal that is lost is going to skyrocket. But at the same time, I don't trust everybody that has enough money to go buy one, or just people in general as humans. They're probably going to, there's going to be somebody or multiple people that are using it for scouting or trying to go find a big buck or flying over other people's properties, see if they can find something or whatever else, where they're taking advantage of what could be a good thing.
Well, there's already the guy that I think is the one that mainly started this, because it was like one guy that was doing this a lot last year. And
It was
then
2
now,
years ago.
I think
now.
they have a company.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
that you can
Yeah.
hire them to bring their drone and they'll
Yeah.
look for your deer.
And then it, he's had probably at least dozens from what I've seen of knockoffs this year. I guess, I don't know if it's knockoffs, just people realizing an opportunity in it and doing the same thing. But I saw that one of his services now is like a herd management type thing, right? Where he's giving you a count on your deer and all of that. And I think I'm right there with Easton, where I think that the concept of it is good. I think it's going to get abused to a point where it's not good, and I really think it's going to be a serious problem. If obviously, I think it won't be that much of an issue, because I think you'll see it illegal in all of the states within, or maybe not all of them, but I think it'll be 70% within 3 years. That's my prediction.
It kind of takes what a cell cam does and puts it on roids.
Yeah.
Because, granted, I mean, if you're using it as the thermal, you could use it all kinds of ways. But if you're going to use it as the thermal, to where you can really narrow out what deer is what and stuff, it's going to be at night. So obviously you can't. Well, I mean, it doesn't. Hopefully you aren't going to go hunt whatever buck you're trying to find if you were using it that way. But in the event that you have an idea of where he's at within an hour, and you just walk over there and hunt him after you've spotted him with your thermal, you just wait till light and you show up. You're like, okay, I know he's here, or I know that he's not at this stand. I'm going to go to my other stand, and it's going to basically take what a cell cam gives you as live info, and even quicker.
Well, what about all the times though that they go and they find them and they're not dead?
Yeah.
So now what is that person going to do? Most likely they know, well, he's right here. I'm going to go there this afternoon next to this food plot or next to that field or whatever it is where they're sitting.
Which in my opinion, that could be a good thing.
Because they kill him,
Because
yeah.
if they're like, okay, he's not dead, but he's good enough for something, or he's going to be walking around or something, you can go sit there, and instead of shooting multiple deer, okay, I know he's here, I'm going to shoot this one again. That, to me, that's another plus. But then, I mean, it could go many ways.
If you think about it, like Alaska, what is it? When you fly into Alaska, you're not allowed to hunt for 24 hours.
Oh, really?
Yes, because the same reason. you're getting to fly in and
They don't want you to fly over big bull moose, say, okay, we know where he is, go land, get out, right there.
Interesting. I didn't know that. I agree with that.
So, well, I would like to chime in on this because
let's
I got a feeling that I'm going to tick some people off. Because I agree with you guys to an extent. However, meaning I agree. I don't think that drones. I think the abuses would probably outweigh the benefit of doing it.
I agree.
However, I can make the same argument about dogs. That was what people were afraid of when they were going to legalize, which they finally did legalize in Iowa, the use of dogs to recover a deer. Because I believe that if you wound an animal, you need to do everything in your power to recover that animal. I mean, absolutely everything you possibly can, provided that it's legal and ethical. And so there always becomes a gray area when you don't know whether the deer is dead or not, or whether it was a lethal shot or not. That's where it gets really tricky.
I want to know how you can relate. Because
it's
tracking.
There was a lot of people that were against dogs and still are against the use of dogs because someone would basically go in and use a dog to get the deer out of wherever it is and then try to kill it. But one of the biggest things that Iowa did was that dog has to be on a lead.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, so there are things that they've put in place so that therefore the use of a dog, if there was something, I don't know how you would have to specifically write the law to make it where, okay, number one, drone can only be used in daytime hours. Again, maybe it's something that if you use a drone to recover an animal, okay, you got to wait if you run a drone up, you got 24 hours before you can actually go hunt again.
Yeah, that could be something where I think, but then you run into what if the animal is, mortally wounded. He's one of those instances where he's dropping his head, and he just
needs time.
If you could go give him one more arrow,
right,
that he'd be done. Because I mean, even in that case, to me, if you have an animal that's mortally wounded, I'd be saying I'd be okay with the drone, and I'd be okay with radios. I'd be okay with anything you could to try to put that animal out of its misery.
No one wants to see one suffer.
Because you wounded it. But my concern, the biggest concern that I have is more of this. So if you look just type in thermal drone already, DJI now has one for $5,700.
DJI.
Okay, $5,498, which I think this one's $9,000. I think the ones that these guys are using are more like $15,000, $20,000 drones. But my point is we all know as stuff gets better and better, those prices are going to come down. And so then what you're going to have is everybody and their mother with flipping drones up in the air. Like we thought cell cams are bad. Holy shit. We had drones all over the place because what keeps them from going, well, maybe he went over to the neighbors and just flying over there.
Oh, I can tell you now, if a drone comes by me while I'm hunting,
you're flinging arrows.
I'm killing it. I'm shooting it. Either an arrow or what. I mean, there's no reason that a drone should be flying over my property where I'm hunting at, unless it's one of you ding-dongs screwing with me or something like that. But even then, if I don't know about it, I don't know that you're screwing with me, you're going to have the coolest footage ever because the arrows are coming right at it.
You want to know a funny story?
What's that?
When I was flying home the other day, the people I was sitting next to on the plane, they were telling me this story about somebody that was flying a drone over this property, right? And the guy shoots the drone down, the landowner. He shoots the drone down, and then his wife comes home, and she's like, what the hell did you do? He's like, there's a drone flying over, and I shot it down. She's like, yeah, that was our realtors. So the realtor was taking pictures and stuff.
Oh my god!
The drone of their property, and he shot it down. And she's like, "Why did you do that?" And he's like, "Well, you didn't tell me." And she's like, "I didn't think you were gonna be home today. You were supposed to be at work or something, Because I was like, if your husband went and shot the drone down, that's your fault. Because that dude anytime was gonna shoot it down. Like you need to give him a warning no matter what. So they had to go and buy her a new drone.
That's freaking funny.
That's awesome. That he was a good shot. I wonder what he shot it with. It was a shotgun?
It was a shotgun.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
And how did the drone – I wonder how the realtor didn't see him coming.
Probably was just flying and then just
facing
boom.
the other way. And whack.
Huh, that's funny. So anyhow, there's just so many different scenarios that you could put this drone into where it would be nice to have one, I mean, I look at the fact like we got a lot of CRP and stuff like that here. And if you think a deer is laying out in a CRP field, maybe more effective than even a dog is a drone. Run a drone up or a cornfield, a picked cornfield, where you can't necessarily see across it from ground level. A drone could help you tremendously. The problem that runs into that is that not everyone would use it just for those occasions for when they would need it. But that's my argument as far as the dog. I mean, the same thing. People were like, if you legalize the dogs, then someone's going to abuse it. You can make the same argument for a gun. If we make it legal where people can carry guns, and someone bad is going to do something with that gun. Absolutely.
Here's the difference, though, because I don't think you can relate dogs and thermal drones even in the same conversation. The only similarity there is the fact that they're doing the same thing as far as trying to recover a wounded animal. As far as the advantage you're going to gain off of one or the other is completely different ball games. Because a dog, even if let's go off of Iowa, you have to have them on a lead. So number one, they're with you. If somebody is not using them in the proper legal format or however else, they're letting them run free, whatever they're doing, I have a very hard, not that I agree with it, but I have a very hard time believing that they have that much of a genuine benefit on killing something or something if we're going off the instance of it's some big buck or something that you're trying to find. The chances of your dog going to find that specific deer when it doesn't know it's tracking that deer, or the fact that it's going to chase it and it's going to chase it by somewhere where you can shoot it and all kinds of things is like, it's,
yeah, what are the
odds that's going to happen versus a drone that you put up in the air that is, the deer has no idea it's there if it's high enough. It can pick out which one you're looking for exactly, tell you exactly where it's at, what it's doing, where it's going to. Heck, you could follow the dang thing and it doesn't even know until you go in there and you can hunt it. So there's already massive, massive, massive benefits in comparison, because you can go ahead and let your dog run free unless you have some freaking incredible training tactic where it can find the deer that is alive that's not wounded whatsoever and say, hey, Dad, here's a big, big buck that I know you want to kill, and run it towards you. I don't see how that can it can definitely be abused, but
Even
not in the ways of a thermal. I don't think thermal drone.
Well, to me, let's take your worst dog handler and your worst drone operator. What is the worst thing that your terrible dog handler could do? They could let their dog go
and chases some deer around.
Yeah, and I mean, now it would absolutely piss me off too if it goes on the neighbors and it's running deer around.
Right.
However, it's not that dog is not bringing you any benefit of killing a deer.
Yeah.
It's not going to help you in any way. Now I know that people say, well, there's dogs that do deer drives and stuff. Sure, but I mean, they're not tracking. That's plus.
Well, they are. Those deer are following those dogs are following a deer when they're running deer, but they're not following a specific deer. They'll follow any deer that
right.
they get a scent of.
We're just taking a tracker that is terrible, has no idea what he's doing, and
right.
and then the odds of still getting that dog to be able to run a deer by you or any of them, because the only other instance that you would have that would be during shotgun season. And I have a hard time. I know that there was a lot of trackers here in Iowa that they won't even run tracks during shotgun season because they don't want their dogs to get shot. Same thing. I don't think we don't really take any tracks unless we know
right.
it's somewhere that we know for sure, like our dog is safe.
Yeah.
So nobody's going to be letting their dog run during that time off a leash either. So the worst case scenario you have with a terrible tracker is that you run some deer around. What's the worst case scenario you have with a terrible drone operator?
He wrecks his drone.
He wrecks his drone. That would be a good thing, I
But
think.
he could really tell you where it doesn't.
But he knows
matter.
how many deer are on the neighbor's property and the one to the south, and he knows where a big buck is, and he can, as long as he can play a PlayStation, he can fly the drone. I think you got a lot larger circumstances of things that
There's
can happen.
There's a lot more
with
information that can come from the drone,
dog.
without a doubt. I'm just saying that the argument can be made that they're.
So let's make the argument for the drone. Which one do you think is going to be better for recovery of an animal, a dog or a drone? If we're just taking all legal, taking all other things out of it. Which one? You got to choose one. or 200-inch deer that you shot and you're not sure, you have to pick a drone or a dog to go and chase it.
I think
Go
Do I get to pick
follow
my
it.
dog?
Yes.
Dog.
Dog?
it depends on the situation.
I would
It
agree
depend-
with them on that, but I'm going off of.
Okay, what situation would it dictate it?
I'm just saying, like, you got a big CRP field or something like that. Not that the dog can't get through there and find it. I mean, depends on how long it's been. What is the weather conditions? There's a whole lot of conditions that go in there that I would be like,
All worst case scenario.
If worst case scenario, I'm going with a dog because I know that if I am having to leave it for a while, and it is
Nick.
freaking ding-a-lang, and it is not going to be presenting any heat. So meaning I had shot in the guts, and I got to give it a day or two, and it does die in a decent amount of time. The thermal's not going to pick it up. Then I know dang well dog is, especially
I wonder
the
how long
dog
it
that I
takes
pick.
a drone to not be able to see that though, because I bet it
Some
takes
of them
a
takes a
long
long
time.
time. It depends on how nice they are. I've seen those binoculars that can see a handprint hours afterwards, versus your regular ones could see it maybe a couple seconds.
I think
afterwards.
it depends on the weather. I mean, how cool is the ground temperature and
We're
everything.
saying the best. You have the
Right.
best absolute drone on the market. The worst tracking conditions possible.
Well, that's totally one-sided.
Oh, I'm just saying. I'm saying worst conditions of the deer has been dead, could be dead for 2 days. Take the absolute worst case scenario that you can think up in your head, and you got to choose one of the two. Which one do you trust more, basically?
Well, because I handle a dog, I have Dan, so I'm probably going to lean toward a dog. Me personally, I'm not positive. I don't know enough about the drones and what they're capable of and things like that. I don't know, not understanding, at what point does the thermal become obsolete? Meaning it doesn't make it not going to help you. Now you're just looking for the animal to be laying there. And then what are we looking at? Are we early in the season and there's a whole bunch of foliage on the trees and it's in a timbered area? You're not going to be able to see through there.
You
Pointless.
can see through a lot of it.
Yeah, if the thermal part is working.
Yeah.
But not if there's no thermal, So
I wonder what you have in inclement weather too.
You can't see through fog and things like that very well. It's
Like,
tough.
could you fly it in rain and stuff?
Oh,
I don't know.
some
that
of the
you
ones
want
I've
to,
seen,
but
I would say I bet you can, but like ours, no, you ain't flying that in the rain.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
what those DJI ones are. They just threw a thermal camera on the.
Which, to preface, we have a normal drone,
yeah.
not a thermal drone.
right.
So the one we have is the Mavic. That's just their regular. That's the majority of their, like that $5,000 one is just a different camera and gimbal on it.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not running our freaking drone through the rain.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure they're water resistant, like weatherproof. But I ain't gonna be putting it up there long enough to test it.
I think I would be taking a dog just because I know I would take Dan. Like,
That's what I was. Cover your ears, Christo. If I could pick my dog, I'm picking Dan, and I'm going.
but I mean, I'd say probably over 90% of other dogs, I would take the drone.
Yeah, I would agree with
Because
that.
I don't think the amount of trackers in Iowa that actually have any idea what they're doing is not very many. And if they
I've
want to
heard-
come at me, they can absolutely come at me because most of them have no clue what they're doing.
Well, the whole thing is the ones that do wouldn't take any offense to that because
Yeah,
you
there's
know,
there's a few that
you
I
know
know
if-
that are dang good,
Yep.
and because I've talked to them, and I've also talked to people that have used them. I've also talked to some people that are like, I'm scared to talk to you right now because I've had some trackers here in Iowa that
Well, and
I've
that's
had awful experience. They start telling me horror stories. I'm like, oh man.
Well,
and
that's
this
a
is not
concern.
what we're-
that's a different concern you could bring into the equation is you do have a terrible tracker that could totally ruin the odds
The
of finding
reputation,
that.
yeah.
They ruin the track. They possibly bump the deer or whatever it is, and then now you do have a situation where you can't really go and grab another dog, doesn't matter how good they are, because they've already caked it. So I think if I couldn't take Dan or know the dog really, really well, I think I'd be taking the thermal drone. But I think the other thing, I did hear a story this year of a guy that they took a thermal drone first, and they couldn't find the deer. Then they put a dog on it, and they found it. And what happened is the deer had fell in a creek, and was up.
No thermal.
Yep, the water was too cold, obviously, and took away all the
Right.
thermals from it, and so the drone couldn't find it, and the dog found it. A dog jumped in the creek, and the handler was like, "What the heck is his deal?" And then he realized he was standing on the deer, and it was like, "Great job," and they pulled the deer out.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, didn't Dan?
Dan was standing on one this year.
That's right.
I didn't know what he was. Same thing. I'm like, come on, Goofy, and he's splashing around and everything. And I was like, get out of the water, because it was kind of semi-frozen,
Right.
and I didn't want him to fall on the ice, or fall into something he couldn't get out of. And then I look, and I was like, that's a tine. No way. I mean, we were 400 yards from where the guy shot the deer, and not in the direction in which we thought, because we actually bumped the deer. Thinking the day before, was it the day before? Yeah, the day before, we bumped the deer looking for another deer and found the other deer, but this one, one had fallen dead near the other one, and so we bumped the deer, saw him, but the only thing that I can explain is possibly coyotes got after him and pushed him absolutely a different direction, because there was definitely sign that the coyotes had been there around the deer.
Was he fully submerged?
Fully submerged. I got a picture of
So
it.
that would have been the same
He
instance.
did the same. He found one in the middle of a creek this year too that would not have had any. I mean, it was dead for like a day or two, and it was cold water. Obviously,
Yeah.
would have been the same situation.
I don't know if you can zoom in on that, Nick, but that was all that we could see.
Yeah.
And if Dan hadn't been Dan was standing on that deer.
You're gonna have to hold it up longer.
I will, but I was showing him. Did you see that?
You sent me it.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be more of my concern than like
Oh.
CRP.
Yeah, we'll just
Because
put
I've
it
seen
Okay.
I've seen Dan go through a lot of CRP on that doe I shot that one time,
Oh yeah.
and that was 6 foot CRP.
Joey's was
yeah,
the
but
best.
I haven't seen. In my experience, I know CRP is vast and big and stuff, but I have not struggled with the dog going through.
Yeah, I
CRP.
don't think it messes with that. I think it messes with us more than it does.
It's
them.
just hard to
I've
find
watched
blood.
Dan do it. He did the 2 mile track that he did this year was 50-60% of it was through CRP. I couldn't see from me to Dad, and he was pulling like he was on it the entire. Every once in a while, I'd look down and you could maybe find a chunk of blood on part of it. I actually like CRP when we're going, because he seems confident in it.
That would be one thing that'd be interesting with a drone. I think you'd have to get really good at gridding.
Yeah, you'd have to
Because
be.
if you have something that's 2 miles away from the shot location, you got to like do that in quadrants or something.
Yeah. Well, it tracks a lot of those like ours will. Again,
you
not a
show you
thermal.
where-
It tracks. It has just like when I do my Onyx shed hunting.
Right.
So
I
I
try
think
to color the land in with my track.
I think we can success with 99% affirmative say to Brett and to Trevor that we're not for drones. That if they came, if our state was, which they didn't take a vote on it, they just made it illegal. But if they had said, if you went there to talk about it, we would say too many downsides to it.
Yep.
I'll just say that it sounds great.
Does.
That's about it. And I just think that there's too much that could be abused with it. So
I would agree.
Well, I think the one thing that we have to remember is we have to, no matter what, as hunters, and when I say we, I'm included in this as much as anyone, we have to do our part to make as good a shot as we can so that we're not having to deal with or have to lean on things like a drone or a dog. Dan is the best insurance policy I hope I never use.
yeah.
I mean, that's what you have to, you should never think, oh, well, I have a dog so I can take this shot.
Right.
Whether it's too far or wrong angle or whatever, or that you're looking back on something, or I've got a drone, all I got to do is put an arrow in it, and it just not, that's not what it's meant
It really
for.
comes all down to it. We need to do better as hunters of just flat out making shots, whether you have a dog or not. Dog, thermal, whatever, because it's pretty sad the amount of calls I'll get in a year. And when I think about it, at first you're like, holy crap, we're really busy. Then you really think about it, you're like, this is awful. Like the fact that there's this many calls.
Well, you'd have to take that into consideration, though. How many bow hunters are in Iowa?
A lot.
Look, do we have any idea of the number?
I have to look. Why?
Because let's say that it's 100,000. Okay, if you have 100,000 bow hunters, and then you get, and there's 1,000 phone calls that go out to trackers. that's only a 1% wound rate of those
Yeah, but
100,000.
Yeah,
That's pretty
especially-
good.
It's a heck of a lot more than 1,000.
It could. All
I
I'm
know what
saying
you're
is you'd have
saying,
to
but
take.
it's
You'd have to
either
look
way,
at the
it's
numbers
sad.
and see.
And
Sure, you could say it's sad. At the same time, though, if you look at the numbers, you're talking a 1% rate.
it's
If that's
I'm
what it
telling
is.
you that it's because I get a lot of calls, and I'm not like a advertising tracker. I just do what I do here and there. And the fact that last year was well over 100 calls, that not that I took all of them, and I've talked to other guys that are multiple thousands. That's in one state. That is absurd. You can say whatever you want for stats. Either way, that number needs to be down. In theory, that number should be 0.
Well,
That'll
you would
never
need to-
happen. But
You would need to know the number to begin with to be able to make that statement.
no, you don't. You just need to know that we all need to do better at making better shots. We all should be working for that.
No
Doesn't
matter what.
Yeah.
It doesn't- I mean,
doesn't
just-
matter what the number is. There's no acceptable number. No matter what, we should be sitting there trying to make better. Each one of us should be trying to make the best shots. Yes, things happen, but as a whole, we all need to do better.
I disagree.
Well, the
I think
problem with wait a minute. The problem with what you're seeing though is because there is going to be some things go wrong even when someone does everything correct.
Yes.
Yep.
That's the only phone call you're going to get. You're not getting the phone call from the 25 other guys that are all hunting that same day in that same county
That did perfect.
that did perfect and
I
say,
understand
"Hey,
that, but
I
I'm-
made a shot and killed it."
But you could also argue the fact that they aren't just calling me because of something happened, something went wrong. It was lack of responsibility for probably 50 to 75% of the calls you get.
I'm just
That's
saying.
my point. If each one of us would take a little more responsibility, if you're doing it all the best you can and making the best shots you possibly can, you're doing what you can. You're doing the right thing, in my opinion. If you're still taking marginal shots and things that you're not super confident on, we have room for improvement, and that is always something that can be improved.
Well, I'm just going to say I'm 55 right now, and I've been doing this with a bow and arrow for 40 years, and I can still get better.
That's my
I mean,
point.
so I understand what you're saying, but we're not trying to pick a fight with every bow hunter out there saying, "Hey, you're not doing a good
It's
job."
not bow hunters. It's just hunters in general. We all need to do better.
I don't think you
That's
can
holding
you can't
accountable.
make that statement. You can't
Yeah,
make
you
that
can.
statement. No, you can't. Because I absolutely should everybody aspire to be the absolute best bow hunter they can, the most ethical bow hunter they can. Absolutely. However, you have to being able to dictate what that standard is going to change from one person to another.
person.
However, though, I think is what you can look at is your success rate. And you can say, if you look at your rate of this, for every arrow that I let loose, I am X percent. Our family, I'll make a statement right now, we're pretty damn good as far as most of what we shoot dies, and it dies quickly. And that's because we take, not because we're a better shot or we're better bow hunters than anybody else, we take high percentage shots. I'd say we got to be in the 97% area. So if those calls that you're getting is that 3%, now I agree, it's probably not. And I know that's not the case because I don't track anymore. But when I used to track, my fee was based off of yardage. So the further you shot, the more I charged you. So if somebody shot 50 yards or 60 yards, I went up from 300, and people can say that's bull. I don't really care because that, to me, it was worth it. It was maybe a little reminder of, man, I don't really want to pay somebody $600 next time, because little did they know if they just shot 30 yards, they'd had the same standard fee as everybody else. So that was my way of doing my part.
Okay, get on with it. What is your point?
My point is that you can all aspire to that, but there'll never, ever be a time where you can say that it's 0, and that you have to, let's hope that most hunters are already doing that, and that 80% of the calls you're getting are from people that is their one for the last 2 or 3 years that they've had an issue with.
I can promise you.
I know,
that's the
because you get
unfortunate
repeat
part.
calls. I'm saying
I know.
80%. Let's just hope that it's that. You can't make a statement saying that everybody has to be doing a better job.
Yes, I can, because here's the thing: is I don't view you as an individual hunter. I don't view you as an individual hunter. I don't view Nick as an individual hunter. I don't view every podcast listener as an individual hunter. If we are going to do what conservation is based on doing, we need to stand together and do everything together. And so all the arguments that we all have here of you do this wrong, you do that wrong, great, wonderful. We all have our own opinions in the things that we do and don't do. That's fine. But at the end of the day, we should all be able to come together and be able to say, hey, I'm a hunter, you're a hunter, I'm going to hold you accountable because we need to do better. You need to do better. I need to do better. So I don't care if I'm on the top percent of not wounding deer nearly as much as, say, the next guy is. We are all hunters. So that means that when I think that we all have room for improvement and we all need to do better, we all need to do better because I'm viewing that. I'm not excluding myself from that because I do better. I am including everybody in that because we should be a team. So you saying that our family does 97%, yeah, wonderful, great. I don't care. We are all on the same team. So yes, there is room for improvement. At one point or another, in a perfect world, there should never be a wounded animal, but that'll never happen. But we can always all together work together and do better. So yes, I do have the right to be able to say the comment of, yes, as hunters, we can do better.
In your opinion. Because I would still
That's
tell
what
you,
this whole podcast is
Yeah.
we all have an opinion.
because I don't agree with that either. I mean, basically, is what I think that's like saying that there's no way ever. I mean, sure, if we want to live in fairyland, we can. However, there's no way
Did it ever get to zero?
that you're ever going to, nor get everybody to be 100% of a team.
No,
That's
you're
not going to happen.
That's why you're not. That's why you're not a coach, and wouldn't be a good one either.
Well, there's a big difference between getting 10 guys to work together and getting
I understand that.
3 million.
If we can get a small fraction of the group of hunters that aren't together right now together, that makes a difference right there. So just saying no, it can't happen. You're not doing your part as a hunter either. Then
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I'm not taking responsibility for somebody that goes and takes stupid shots.
You're not a good teammate.
That's their fault. That's fine. It's an individual
This
thing.
is a good, because we're going to have a lot of people that are either going to.
Well, hold on though, but you are already taking responsibility, whether you realize it or not.
By taking high percentage shots and trying to do your best.
And by talking about
controlling what I can control.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and I mean, that's what our camps, that's what Raised at Full Draw is, to try to teach these kids before someone else teaches them to not shoot very far, to understand what an angle is, that if you gut shot an animal, it's going to kill that animal. It's not going to get away. We hear all kinds of things that moms, dads, grandparents, someone else in the family that may or may not be a hunter, but they're teaching this kid because they want to learn and the kid wants to go hunting, and they've already got some bad things that have come out of it. We try to correct some of that and and hopefully it will go back up the chain and go the other way. Because there are some things that people just don't know, and that's maybe the biggest thing is it's not that people are doing something intentionally. They don't know how far that a bow can shoot. No one's explained to them that, they saw a video on YouTube where someone shot something at 100 yards and killed it. Oh, yeah. Well, then bows are designed to shoot 100 yards. They have no idea about poundage. They have no idea about, how many kids do we see come to camp and they got 4 different arrows in their quiver?
Yeah.
Yeah, their draw length is 4 inches too long.
Absolutely. There's all kinds of things. Yeah. And people what they don't know, they don't know. And so therefore you get a lot of mistakes in hunting just because someone's not educated. So, I mean, we've gone way beyond where we were trying to go with this, but I definitely think it's a
good thing.
It's a good argument. I mean, and I agree with Easton in the statement. I agree with Warren in your statement. I agree with him that we can all do better, but we can just continually try to work to bring that number down, and try to do our part. But I also agree with you. It's never going to be zero.
Never. I even said that.
Yeah,
I'm saying in a perfect world it would be.
Right.
What you've always taught us, and it's not even what you've taught us, because I went down to the Pope and Young thing last year and I was preaching on this, that 80-10-10. 80% of the world is not. They don't give a crap. Right. Hunting, whether you hunt or you don't hunt. You have 10% that are us, that are all for hunting and it'll never change. And you have the other 10% that is absolutely against it and will do everything they can to stop it. And so in the theory of I'm doing my job, I'm doing my part, that's great. But as the person, the 80% that is standing there looking at hunting, whether or not they're going to vote for a hunting legislator or whatever is going to help conservation, they're going to look at hunting as a whole. So you are a hunter and you're the same dude that went over there and shot 100 yards at a deer. They don't see a difference. Point being, hunters are all hunters. So you are on the same team whether you want to take responsibility for everybody or not. I don't care to, but if I can hold one other dude accountable, that's better.
Well, and I think, to me, I think you have to take that argument and piece that out, okay? Because otherwise, what we're going to be saying is that every conversation that we've ever had here on the podcast is that we are, separating hunters, and we're getting hunters to fight against one another because we have an opinion that thermal drones are going to do more harm than good, or that we think that cell cams give us an unfair edge, or any of our personal opinions. And here's where I will disagree with that part of it. As far as, one, like you said, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but two, I think that the whole hunters have to stand together is getting a little overblown, because if you put it in this context, if tomorrow there was a federal legislation that was getting put in that said that hunting as a whole entirely is going to be, the legislation is that it's going to be banned. It's going to be illegal now. Tell me right now that shotgun hunters and bow hunters and crossbow hunters and bow hunters and crossbow hunters and gun hunters are going to vote against each other in that.
No, they would come together.
Regardless, they are all voting for hunting. Is that true?
I would hope so.
Doesn't sound like there's a choice, though.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, because that's the context that we put this in, and so then it changes it into this, which isn't realistic, into this image that federally this whole thing is going to be, all of a sudden hunting is going to be tried to be put to a stop, and that because hunters, we don't agree with crossbow hunters during archery season or whatever, is going to make it where we're not able to fight against that. And that's kind of BS.
That's not the argument, though, because conversation is what drives everything. The fact that you can disagree with something is great, but the fact that as a whole, yeah, we might come together and vote on the same thing, but when we've taken the 80% that can swing the yes or no, as in this person that doesn't give a crap is going to vote for hunters because the group of hunters have portrayed themselves as ethical people that actually care about animals and they benefit things, they're going to give you the votes that are going to make it pass, versus the other side that aren't that if they go to that side, then it doesn't matter if you come together. We could all come together and we're still going to be outweighed by the others because they went that way. So you do have to come together.
Yeah, but you're also trying to say that there's going to be a federal complete ban on hunting. I think that's
what you said.
That's what I'm saying is that that's not realistic. That's not actually something that's realistic.
The point is that you don't have to all agree with everything. That nobody should. The entire, not that I agree with politics whatsoever, because it's just out of whack like no other, but you should be able to be a liberal and I should be able to be a conservative and have a discussion about why we disagree on
why
something.
You all of a sudden make me the liberal?
Okay,
I don't want to be the liberal. You be the liberal.
I'm the liberal and you're the conservative, we should be able to be friends and talk to each other about why you agree with what you agree with and I don't. Same thing with hunting. We should all be able to do that. So that's not saying that just because we come together as a team doesn't mean that we all got to say, oh, throw away your shotguns, throw away your bows, throw away your crossbows. That's out of context. It's let's all work to be better in what we do and do better.
I agree with that. And I think that's the part of that becomes the argument to me, is that I think is what happens there, is that becomes such a blanket statement that it is like a liberal ideology of let's have universal basic income. Everybody gets paid the same. Everybody gets treated the same. Everybody has the exact same rights. All of this stuff to where it's all equal. And the one thing I'm starting to learn in life is the only thing you can control is what the hell you do. So if I want to be able to go, if hunting is going to be, you're not going to be able to go hunt anywhere because you got to have a lease or you got to be able to pay an outfitter or whatever. Not saying that anybody wants that, but you know what? The one thing that I can control on that?
How much money you make.
How much money I make to be able to lease some ground or to go with an outfitter if I want to. So then to me, I can do one of two things. I can either whine about the fact that nobody's fixing all this stuff to make it where I can afford to hunt somewhere, or I can go do this, or I can work my butt off and try to bring value to a marketplace that somebody pays me enough that I can lease something. that I can do something. So this is where I get my issue with it, is I do think that it is our job 100% to encourage people to become the best versions of themselves and try to give them, all we try to do on this podcast and what we're going to start doing a lot more on YouTube and stuff is try to provide people with the stuff we've gotten to learn. That's it. We're not saying you have to do this or you have to do that, but we do think if we give you this information, it may enlighten some people to make different decisions. And that's where my issue comes in, is there's a lot of people out on YouTube saying, bullshit, you got to shoot a 650 grain arrow to do this, or it's okay to shoot 120 yards. It's okay to shoot 100 yards. And I don't want to be lumped in with them because that's bullshit. I disagree with them 100%.
Where are you getting lumped in with any of that, though?
Because it's saying that all of your people on YouTube need to be standing together and doing their part. I don't want to be lumped in with those guys on YouTube because we don't believe in that. I don't agree with shooting 100-plus yards with a bow. So I want to make sure that we're doing what we can to be sharing the information that we've learned and why we believe with so much conviction that shooting at 100 yards with a bow is not a good idea. And it's not about how good of a shot you are. It's about the fact the animal can move, those kinds of things. And I think that, so I guess is what I'm trying to say is I don't want to be put into a team where I'm dependent upon everybody else because I know that 80% of them aren't going to carry their weight.
Well, you don't have a choice is the thing that sucks about it.
To an extent.
No, you don't. You're already in the team. That's the thing. You're already in the team.
The way you're looking at it, yes.
That's how the entire world looks at it. That's not how I choose to look at it. That's how it's set up, and that's reality.
On levels.
Not really. I mean, that's
yes,
reality.
on levels. Because like if you look at the United States, yes, if you look at the United States as a whole, that's one level, right? I am a part of the United States team, whether I want Biden as my president or not.
You're an American citizen.
Yes. But that can break down to lots of different levels and what you are a part of. I didn't vote for Biden, right?
Yeah, but you're in the team.
All right.
Absolutely.
So you're there. You don't have a choice. You just admitted that you're in the hunting team.
This horse died 15 minutes ago, and we just keep beating him and beating him and beating him. You're saying the same thing. You're just trying to say.
Would that technically be CPR?
Not really. Not with what you guys are doing. He's now covered his ears and dead. But you're saying the same thing. You're just stating it in two different ways, whether you guys realize it or not. And so I don't want to, and I'm not going to go into an explanation of that. I think that the drone is just like so many other things that it's controversial, and it's controversial for a reason. And I'm glad that the states have stepped in some. It just like when we talked about the cellular cameras that were banned, or then all trail cameras were banned in Arizona and a few other states. Unless you've experienced that there and seen what they were dealing with, you can't quite understand what's going on. And I think that someone out there listening is going, oh, they don't believe in drones. Well, because we've seen what people will do with stuff when they get the opportunity to break the law. And so I'm not saying that everyone will do it, not by no means, but someone will. So why give them that another possibility?
Not some, probably a lot.
Well,
that's where I think
enough that it would affect how we are viewed as hunters. And so, like I said, in some way, shape, or form, you guys are saying the same thing. I think to summarize what we're talking about is we're not for using drones to recover animals. I mean, and leave it at that.
That's where I do wish that people would look at some of this stuff just straight objectively. Because like I just said, I'd be willing to take the drone if I know I don't have Dan. You know what I'm saying? But it's the same thing like cell cams, right? Cell cams, and I use cell cams, and I call them cheater cams, but the only difference is I'm willing to admit it's a cheater cam. That anybody out
make
there
things right because you can admit it's wrong.
But it's legal. That's right. But I'm competitive, and I want to have an opportunity. What I'm trying to say is that anybody out there that wants to try to say that a cell cam that provides live information at relative time does not help you kill deer is flat lying to themselves. That information 100% makes a difference. And now that's when you have a different argument of, is that okay or not? And that's up to each person to decide as long as it's legal, right? However, I think if you're saying things such as there's a lot of talk in Iowa of, oh, the deer aren't the same quality and things like that. Well, then you'd have to look at what's the things that have changed in the last few years that could possibly influence that. And as much as, I think you can't say deer drives. Deer drives have been going on for decades.
Years,
so it's not deer drives. What's the only thing that's changed in the last few years is cell cams. So you'd have to look at those things.
And a late season rifle.
And that was only 1 year though.
Yeah, it made a huge difference.
I think it did too. But I think I wish if people just look at the facts of things and then take those as it is and then form their opinion, I think that you'd have a lot better discussions on all of this stuff because at least people are looking at the same facts, not everything off of an emotional opinion.
Gotcha. All right. So there you go. There we have it. Or do we want to? I don't know how long we've been going, Nick. How long have we been going? I don't think we're going to get into our scouting then today. I think that we covered this. So we'll hang on to Mike Prado, who had called in, actually. He had contacted us and was asking for some scouting stuff. We'll save that for the next one. Because, and I would just say that a lot of deer hunters out there, hardcore deer hunters, would say you're scouting 365 days a year, and I would agree with that. But one of my biggest scouting times is coming up. I mean, like
most lucrative.
Yeah, or you garner as much information, if not more information, this time of year as opposed to, deer season's coming and it's August, and you think, I'm going to get out there and do something now. The time to be scouting is upon us. So we'll hang on to that. But thanks a lot, Brett. Thanks a lot, Trevor, for bringing up the drone deal. I hope you got what you were looking for.
And some.
And then some. So, but no, we appreciate you guys. Appreciate all the comments, the compliments. We even
let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, we even appreciate it when you guys disagree with us. And don't get me wrong, we get some people that write in and say, didn't like that. I don't like what you guys are saying there. Hopefully you won't stop listening because of that, because it's our opinion. And you've got one too, and that's okay. So anyhow, it's one of those things where we are gonna stand convicted by our opinions, but we can be swayed if someone has the right argument and they have the right information. These two are definitely more difficult to sway when they have their minds made up, as you can possibly tell. So, but it comes with age that you start to look at things and live. Maybe I'll hear that a little more than what I would have heard when I was 15 years, 20 years younger. So
disagree.
Because
mine is not but I will, because mine is.
Oh wow! I thought he was just airing himself out.
No,
just joke. No, he really is.
No,
because
the reason I disagree with that is because what you're saying is that's a matter of not listening. And as what I'm telling you is that when I disagree with something or I have an opinion that is a solid opinion, it's because I took a lot of time and gathered a lot of information on that opinion before I formed it. Otherwise, I keep my mind open until I felt as though enough facts provide me with information that I feel one way or another.
Okay, and here's what I'm going to tell you is you can't argue about the fact of how you're going to feel 20 years from now. You can't do it. No matter what you try to say, you can't do it.
That's what my teachers told me too.
Yeah.
And I've been right so far.
No, you haven't.
20 years from now, you're going to look back and
hilarious.
listen to something that you said and go, hopefully you'll be able to be man enough and
absolutely
to say, I wasn't 100% right then.
I'm not saying I'm 100% right. All I'm saying is what information I take to form an opinion.
You are.
I'm not saying that.
You love arguing.
At this point in time,
just correcting a
All
fallacy.
right, go on.
We're done. I'm done here because I'm afraid if I say anything else. So this is the Raised Hunting Podcast signing off.
We have
for
wacky
Warren
facts.
2. Oh Lordy.
Wacky facts aren't wacky. I'm going to argue that. That's not fair.
Yeah.
They're
you cannot lump all these facts that they're wacky.
Yeah.
Maybe not, because this one's a lot more common than you would think. 1 in 18 people have a third nipple.
Ew. I thought that was just.
I don't feel like that's accurate, because I've gone to the pool before. There's way more than 18 people, and I'm not seeing a third nipple sticking on them.
Maybe it's just an extra bump on one.
Where would it go?
Notice. Hey, actually, I know somebody that had a third nipple.
Who?
I do. I'm not going to say his name on here.
Did it tell you the location of it?
we were in high school together, so I mean, you could see it when you're in a locker room.
Yeah, but is
changing.
it like right next to one of the other nipples, or like in the middle, or what?
It's in between. I mean, it's not like in the center in between, but it's in between.
1 in 18. That's crazy. And then I got one other.
That seems like a really high statistic.
That's what I thought, but your signature could reveal personality traits. A study done in 2016 purports that among men, a larger signature correlates with higher social bravado, and among women, a bigger signature correlates with narcissistic traits. I feel like almost all women's signatures I've always seen are big. I just said that one just to totally throw a wrench in there.
Yeah.
And fortunately, 97% of our audience is male, so we're good.
But we're going to hear from all 3%, whether they got 2 or 3 nipples, are going to be contacting us right away. I can tell you right now, if they hear that
Good
statement,
Lord.
if they listen to that, then they're going to write in.
Well, hey, if we have at least 18 female listeners, and one of them does.
I don't think that's how stats work, but
I don't
we'll go
think
with
so
it.
All right. Are you done? Is that your wacky facts for the day?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for tuning in to the Raised Hunting Podcast. We sure appreciate it. Continue to drop the reviews and your plugs on Spotify, on
iMovie.
Podcast,
I almost said iPod,
Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts, and I've been trying
YouTube.
to read. I've been diligently going back through and answering as much of the YouTube comments as I can. So I've been looking for you guys. Appreciate you guys. If we don't answer something, don't hesitate to shoot us a message on Instagram or Facebook or even send it directly to our email info@Raised Hunting.
You got to think. We have a pretty decent amount of followers, and we're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all these things, and we don't hire the social media or anything out. So you're looking at us plus
Doing
Nick. So 4 people trying to talk to everybody. So we're not trying to skip things over, but we do our best. We're trying to talk to everybody and reply to comments, and we post every day. So there's a lot to go through, but
All right.
we're doing better.
We're out. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.